Hello, my YouTube angels, and welcome to episode 22 of the Devotional Drip. Last week's episode was on Instagram, episode 21. It was deep. We were all up in some mycelium consciousness. You can find the replay of that on my Instagram at Blood, Bone, and Honey. Hi, Miranda. I'm currently also streaming on the IG to call folks from that space to join us on YouTube if they would like. And this is the first time I was telling the folks on Instagram, this is the first time I'm standing for the Devotional Drip, and that feels really powerful. I am in this library. I'm not going to reveal where I am because I honestly like the mystery of it. And I do have a 5-line in my human design, and someone sent me this morning this human design post that was like 5 lines or like mysterious. And I was like, oh yeah, like I actually love that. I want to activate some mysterious energy today on this drip. If you joined us yesterday, we went live and we went through this whole transmission already. Today, we're talking about play as a spiritual practice to release, reveal, and ravish in our inner artist and creatrix, which, in my personal opinion, is a non-negotiable when there's a lot of kooky shit happening on planet Earth, right? Like, we need to be in our agency around our capacity to alchemize and like anchor down some light onto this planet that is going through a purging of some ancient darkness right now. So that's where we are today. And Mercury retrograde style, I don't have my notes. I completely left them at home. And I'm also trusting that this transmission is just supposed to come from my body. And I thought about rewriting my notes, and I was like, you know what? Like, in my artistry and creatrix expression, there's something really powerful about just really trusting my channel at a next level and just showing up with the cards that I have for you here today and letting it flow however it needs to. So may that inspire you to perhaps shift a way that you typically show up, maybe in your leadership and your creativity and your space holding, and what is it to like step just a little bit more outside of that comfort zone. And I was actually talking about this with a client earlier this week, like, what are you labeling as your comfort zone? For myself right now, I'm really in an investigation of what I've been calling comfort that's actually just habitual. And in my higher self agency and authority and my creatrix mindset, being in my power to shift the way that I'm relating to my life, the way I historically do things in my business, relationship. I don't know about you, but right now for me, it feels like a big reset moment. And that makes me want to start with our first card today, which is Ascension. So Ascension has a lot of stuff around it. I used to think, when I heard the word ascension many years ago, when I started my spiritual awakening journey, is that ascending meant to leave your body, right? To achieve some higher spiritual state outside of the physical realm, to transcend the physical body, which if we then look at the history of white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy, there's been this demonization of the body, right? And so it makes sense that somewhere along the line, there was this program that if we're going to spiritually awaken, if we're going to transcend and embody our higher selves or our God selves, we have to somehow escape this body. And what I want to invite us into today is just the profound simplicity of remembering that ascension and awakening happens in the body, through the body, through the breath, and that our body is one of the most sacred, holy gifts that we have in this human life. And as an immunocompromised person who has struggled with joint pain since I was quite literally 5 years old, I say that also with the acknowledgement of like, sometimes being in these bodies can be a painful and tender experience based on all of what we're navigating, all of what we're transmuting, all of what we're clearing. So just introducing first and foremost, ascension happens in our body. Right now, there's a lot of astrological placements. I am not an astrologer, but I do read energy that are inviting us into this process, shown on Instagram, into ascension. And there is this call to redefine what that means for each of us in our own unique higher self code. Everyone is going to relate to this differently, and we're meant to. Each of us are here to bring a unique offering to this world, to this planet at this time. My personal belief is that my soul is in agreement to be here, and I'm part of a cleanup crew. And I believe that there are many earth angels on planet Earth at this time who are here to reclaim their connection to their body and breath, spiritually awaken inside of their bodies, and then emanate what they've awakened internally, externally into the world to support them in meeting their divine purpose, and therefore serving the folks that they're here to serve, that you're here to serve. Because the devotional drip is for creatives, leaders, light workers, visionaries, entrepreneurs, folks with a big heart and a big calling to show up and share and shine their light. So I actually was thinking about this drip before hopping on, and what felt so important in my body was to start this out by saying thank you. Like, thank you to however you are showing up right now in your courage to share and shine the uniqueness of you into the world. You are a gift. You are a gift right now. There is nothing you need to do, become, achieve, arrive at in order to acknowledge, like, wow, I am special. I am a gift. I'm not a parasite to planet Earth, as all of the program would like us to believe. Like, I am here to radiate my light. But here's the deal. Shame is a program. So if we're cloaked in shame, then we're not going to shine our gifts, right? Because we're always going to be looking to meet these external standards and bullet points of, I need to do this, and this in order to then finally be ready to show up in my leadership, in order to finally be ready to show up in my artistry, in order to finally be ready to, it's any of the like, I'm not ready yetness, and totally honoring that, like, there's no rush and it takes time for all of us to come into our bloom. But I'm just feeling, particularly if there's any like conditionality you're holding yourself to before you allow yourself to express at a next depth of magnetism, the invitation is to just drop that, shed that, leave that, and choose something new. So let's go to our next card, which is Nocturnes. I love this card because it specifically points to wild astrological placements, which we are surfing right now in a big way. And I also love the way that this being is laying down and opening their mind to receive new ideas. This is inviting me to invite you into the necessary pause, rest, and presence that it requires to transmute the sticky, dark, emotional density into levity and light. We have to stop, drop, and be present with what's alive for us and what's real for us right now. My phone's about to die, so I'm going to hop off Instagram. Join us on YouTube if you'd like. All right, YouTube. Also, I feel like this happened yesterday too. I did turn the comments on, but for some reason it's holding comments. So if you are commenting, if you commented yesterday, I couldn't see them. And for some reason I can't see them right now. If you are here, drop something, and maybe there's just no one dropping in yet, and let me know so I can see you. So, okay, back to this Nocturnes card. So I got to sit down now, even though it felt good to stand up. There's a lot popping up in the dream realm right now. There's a lot that we're moving through on a collective consciousness level, and we cannot be separated from the collective consciousness, right? Like, we talked about this with the mycelium network last week. All the mushrooms are talking to each other. All the mushrooms are connected, just like we are, just like our brains are, just like our nervous systems are. How can we come from the same source and not be interdimensionally deeply connected? How can we come from the same planet and not share so many things? Like, this feels like the call to recognize that we are a part of something. So some of the things that we're transmuting right now aren't just ours. Some of it is the collective consciousness that we're tapping into. But then this card calling us specifically into, what is your experience of what's unfolding right now? How are you digesting and interpreting this energy? And I felt this yesterday. I feel this today. a beautiful practice to start working with this is to start a dream journal. Um, in the Devotional Dance Coven, we're calling our journals our higher self-care spell books. And if you're listening live or watching on the replay and you're in the Devotional Dance Coven, this feels like a beautiful invitation, especially because we're in water this week, to maybe add some morning dream journaling to your daily practice, because there's a lot unfolding for us there. And then there's also a lot unfolding for us on a subconscious level. I've been saying the phrase, like, I feel like my subconscious is showing. Does anyone else feel like that? Like, it's almost like the inner realm is coming to the outer realm, and it doesn't feel like we have much control over that. It feels like birth. It feels like death. It feels like transformation happening on transformation's terms. And I've definitely been feeling parts of my own consciousness, of my own subconscious mind, starting to integrate into my conscious mind. And then parts of myself that perhaps I've been shaming for a lifetime are now starting to show themselves and shine themselves. Yesterday on the first round of this episode, I talked about a very specific aspect of my inner child that's been coming forward, which is I was like 7 years old, and for like 4 years, I would not stop wearing this cheetah print bathing suit. All I wanted to wear all the time was this cheetah print bathing suit. And I got made fun of for it. And people were like, why are you wearing that bathing suit? Can you please put on something else? But it was so true for me. It was so real for me. I was like, no, this is my glamour. I am a cat. It was very resonant with being a cat as a child. Leo moon placement was loud. Chiron in Leo. Grandma's a Leo. We got this big ass hair, lots of big cat lion energy. And as a child, I felt so connected to that expression of my being. At the time, I didn't know it was Sekhmet, ancient Egyptian cat goddess who's very connected to Mary Magdalene. Or perhaps I did, but there was this essence of my inner realm shining outwards without shame. It's that childlike, I want to put on the dress up shoes to go to the grocery store, and I'm not worried that someone's gonna, think I'm weird for doing it. In fact, I'm actually waiting for someone to comment on like how cute my dress up shoes are at the grocery store. Did anyone else do that when they were a kid? Like, take the clothes from the dress up box and then wear them to the grocery store and like push the little cart? That could have been my Leo moon, wanting to be noticed and seen from a very young age. But I bring this forward to say, like, what part of you is just like that's so endogenous to your soul? I have like full goosebumps radiating up my legs right now. Like, what part of you that is so unique and endogenous to you and your code is ready to quite literally emanate from inside of you into your external realm? Hi, Paula. We have Paula saying, been doing dream journaling for a couple of years, and so much is going on in the dream world these days. Curious to hear your thoughts on what goes on in our dream state. So I'm just going to say this. There's a place that I go in the dream realm that feels like it's an ancient intergalactic mystery school. And I've seen some of my friends who I do ritual with here on planet Earth in this realm, in the dream world, quite literally like teaching and holding lectures in like halls that have like big planets and terrariums. And it feels like this ancient intergalactic mystery school that we go to in our dreams. So that's been popping off for me recently. And then in the dream state, like on a more like Jungian front, I think that we're working it out, right? We're working out in our dream state, whatever in our waking state isn't getting tended to, or we're working out in our dream state, whatever is getting triggered in our day-to-day life right now, which feels important to speak into, because I think a lot of our historical wounds are being triggered right now as we're going through this massive planetary ascension. And as planet Earth is going through an ascension, we are part of planet Earth. So we are also going through an ascension. So our triggers are teachers. So everything that is triggering us right now is pointing to something in our subconscious mind so that we can wake up, reclaim, reorient, and heal and rise and shine, regardless of how much darkness there is. And I spoke to this yesterday, like, planet Earth has been addicted to suffering and recreating suffering. And so those of us with access and proximity and the privilege to be able to in a practice, to be in a self-inquiry practice, I feel personally, I mean, and I'm just going to speak for myself, I feel so responsible to divest from my own recreation of suffering in my own day-to-day life as a representative of what I am in a prayerful yearning and desire for, a divinely delivered desire for planet Earth. This can go back to the way that we investigate, if we want to deconstruct toxic systems of white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism on this planet, then we have to, those of us with proximity, access, privilege, and agency, I believe it is our responsibility, our ability to respond to that consciousness and divest from it in our own mind, body, heart, and psyche as representative, again, of what we would like to see on the planet. And we got a lot of Aries placements right now, and I'm witnessing a lot of finger pointing. And I know folks who are here on the devotional drip, like I'm talking peer to peer, I'm talking high priestess to high priestess here. So what I want to offer is like, anytime we're pointing our fingers at someone else and saying it's them, they're the problem, I think it's important for us to reorient ourselves to our own hearts and be like, wow, I'm a part of this collective network. Like I can't be separated from the collective. So instead of getting so angry and directing all my anger at this group of people or labeling another group of people, putting another group of people in a box again. One of my clients / deep galactic soul sisters, Kate, says, fuck your boxes. And I feel that so deeply, like, fuck the boxes. We have to stop putting people in boxes, because the truth is, any expression of violence on planet Earth, and there is no excuse, but just from a trauma lens, from a somatic lens, from a science lens, those actions, like, I don't believe that people are inherently born violent. I believe that we inherit trauma from our lineage. Epigenetic trauma is obviously very scientifically real. And also, as a trauma practitioner, what I know is that people commit acts of violence from their own pain and trauma that has not been healed. And so at the end of the day, like, the call right now on planet Earth is to heal our individual and collective trauma. If we want to heal the collective trauma, we need to focus on what our task load is right now individually. And I also believe that we're not meant to do this alone. Just because we have our own work, our own coursework, our own holy homework, I fundamentally believe that healing and ascension is not meant to be done alone. We're meant to do this in community. We're meant to do this in Coventry. We're meant to exchange notes, swap notes. I was so deeply impacted on the Devotional Dance Coven on Monday by the way that, so we were exploring desire and guilt around desire and guilt around pleasure. We were in the element of water. We were working in our pelvis. We were working in our sacral chakra, Svadhisthana. And I was so, I was like shooketh in the best way that so many of us were like undoing similar textures of guilt and stories around pleasure, guilt and stories around prosperity, guilt and stories around manifestation. And for me, like, if we're going to reveal our inner artist, then I think we need to meet eye to eye and heart to heart with each other and remember that we're not alone, because it's scary to step up and shine in your unique light. I so much of my empowerment comes from my tribe, from the tribe and the village and the coven of women that I am co-creating with, whether they be clients or peers or friends or family. Like, we need the coven, we need the community, we need the mirrors so that we can have our own sacred light reflected back at us, as well as our shared collective pain. Because I think a lot of shame can come up when we think, this is a unique experience to me, I must be alone in this. Nobody else has ever felt this way. And that loneliness texture is what I have witnessed in my clients, who are all artists in their own unique way. And in myself, that's what starts to make us go like this and collapse on ourselves. So we're investigating with this Nocturne card what's going on in our own inner realm right now. What is coming up that has been so historically painful for us that we are being asked to transmute? Right now, for me, there's a lot around perfectionism. I am showing up in bigger, bolder ways. The devotional dance coven is something I have been quite literally wanting to birth for like 7 years. And so this pressure as an artist for it to be perfect the first time and blah, 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 like meeting all of that and embracing what I actually truly believe in the depth of my soul, which is that the best leaders are showing their flaws, and that flaws and whatever we've labeled as flaws are actually just a part of who we are. And when we reclaim our non-dualistic way of relating to ourselves, we understand that our shadow self is cannot be separated from our higher self. This is some of that like dark goddess energy I was sharing on Instagram earlier this morning. Part of my liberation journey and coming into my artistry and revealing my truth has been through working with dark goddesses like Kali Ma, like Durga, like Lilith, aspects of Isis. Like, I'm getting like full goosebumps again. Just like these permission slips that these living goddesses and ascended masters and galactic teachers are, to remind us that what we've been told is flawed and problematic and dirty and wrong is actually our primordial power. So just to review before we go into our next 3 cards, Ascension is a journey that's meant to be done in Coventry, in community. It happens in the body. It's not about leaving the body. It's actually about remembering that there's always an aspect of ourselves that I call our higher self that exists in a higher realm, but not outside of us. It's actually deep within us. The realm is inside. So when we're connecting to our higher selves, it's not going up and out, it's going in and down. It's quite literally the reverse of some of the religious dogmatic programming that says you have to go up and out, you have to purify yourself in order to be worthy to sit at the altar. And it's like, no, we get to come to the altar in whatever state we are in that moment, and we will be loved and licked from head to toe by the divine because we are children of the divine. And could you imagine a parent? I mean, I could imagine because it happens all the time, but think about a parent turning their back on a child who is in need. That's a code that we've got going on planet Earth right now, right? It's like children are meant to be heard, not seen. Children are meant to be in seats for fucking 10 hours a day, listening and not talking. As an ADHD person who got in trouble in school literally every day of my life, that didn't work for me. Did that work for you? Because a lot of my clients and a lot of folks in the Blood, Bone, and Honey community are magical as fuck, psychic as fuck, neurodivergent as fuck, have lived through some intense trauma, and they're all here as powerful earth angels here to slay and shine their unique code. And we're all artists, and we're all creatrixes, and we're all here to anchor an ancient frequency on the planet that has not been here for centuries, because it hasn't been safe, because it's a direct threat to the powers that have been. I'm not even going to say the powers that be, because what I'm practicing in my consciousness is that the tower is crumbling now. That feels really evident to me. So if the ivory tower is going to crumble externally, we've got to crumble our internal ivory tower, and where we are still consenting to our own suffering, consenting to arbitrary standards that we're making ourselves meet before we can actually step into our power or raise our prices or shine and share in our leadership and our artistry at a next level. So first invitation into play to reveal the inner artist, to reveal the inner creatrix, and to ravish in it is to remember that it's all happening in our bodies. So the body is the playground. The body is the wisdom keeper. When we move our body, when we connect to our body, we remember our breath. And when we remember our breath, that's what starts to clear the mind. And when we clear the mind, that's how we can start to touch back into that frequency, that essence, that consciousness of unconditional divine love that is never ending and always flowing from the heart of the source, no matter how many fucked up things you feel like you did that day. Like, this love is never ending, and it's available in every moment. So I don't know about you, but that makes me want to play. So first invitation to play and reveal that inner artist, go inside, ravish in your own divinity, connect to your light, connect to your dark. Remember that your higher self is found inside of your body. Close your eyes, play with that energy, and start to bring it out of your body. But know that the awakening is going to happen inside. And then from the inner awakening, you shine that awakening energy outwards. And then that starts to activate other folks. I also want to speak into the way that you start to shift your vibrational signature, connect to your higher self more consistently. Your energy will quite literally spontaneously awaken people around you. Or I was just talking to one of my high power, high priestess clients earlier this week. Like, people will recognize the nourishment in your energy and they'll want to come drink from the well because you've been drinking your own water, the water of the amniotic fluid of the never ending love of the womb of no thing of source energy. If you've been plugging into that and drinking into that from inside, I like to think of the belly button as an umbilical cord to source, the heart as an umbilical cord to source, the root chakra and the perineum as an umbilical cord down into the earth, which Gaia is an expression of source, of the divine feminine, of the divine mother. So we can like plug in, plug in, plug in, plug in, plug in, and charge ourselves. And then from that frequency, from that vibration that gets activated, we're then nourished. We are not pouring from an empty glass. We're showing up hydrated in our higher self expression. This other card, Nocturne, in terms of playing in the dream realm, right? Like letting the subconscious play be a little more sexy, not demonizing parts of ourselves that maybe historically in our family, historically in our life, historically, culturally, anything that's been demonized or shamed as bad, dirty, not good enough, wrong, messy, flawed. The invitation with this Nocturnus card is to play with that part of your consciousness. Like, invite the parts that have been labeled as flawed or too much or not enough or whatever to a play date. Take them out on an artist date. Dress as that version of yourself. Like, this glamour is not accidental. I'm about to take my shirt off because I'm so hot. And you know how many times I was called slutty, a whore, loud, inappropriate in my lifetime? That's because I've always showed up like this. And this is a problem because this is powerful. And this expression of myself truly doesn't actually give a fuck what anyone thinks about me except the divine mother and my higher self. And that is the invitation of this Nocturnus card. It's like, forget what everyone else thinks about you. How do you feel about you? Can you take the part of yourself that's been cloaked in shame on a play date? How do they want to dress? What do they want to drink? What do they want to eat? Make it playful. I'm going to end that one there because we got 3 more cards. Lalita, Hindu goddess Lalita. The ultimate invitation into play. Okay? This card is from the Divine Feminine Oracle deck by Megan Watterson. Highly recommend. Lalita is the red goddess. Playfulness is a spiritual power. Laughter leads me back to light. This card deeply talks about not clinging to our desires. Desires have also been demonized, right? When actually our desire, we talked about this on the Devotional Dance Coven, desire is connected to the second chakra, Svadhisthana, sacral chakra. This is the space where we can quite literally create babies, right? I also, as someone who doesn't have children, but births creative projects all the time, like, this is the space where I gestate my projects. And think about if you were in a state of gestating a baby, like, your body is creating space for that being to grow. There's not a clamping down. There's actually an expansion. So when it comes to like birthing what we want to birth into the world, birthing those passion projects, sharing what we feel so called to share from the depths of our being, there needs to be a loose grip. We need to let go of how we think it's all going to play out, how we think it's going to go, and be in a wonder and awe and playful spirit, a childlike spirit around like source, divine mother, higher self, ancestors, guides. Like, please reveal to me, through me, what the next step is. Like, my ego doesn't need to grip so hard to this anymore. I trust that if the desire is within me, that it is divinely delivered. And I trust that the divine is going to help me bring and birth this into being. So Lalita's like, loosen the grip. Stop taking the desire so seriously, which I know as an artist, it's hard, right? Because these are the things we want to share and shine into the world. And these are our babies and these are our big ideas. And And so to invite ourselves and invite our ego to like release the grip at a next level and surrender into the divine process of how it wants to unfold is the invitation of Lalita. And there's something Megan Watterson writes in the description of this card. Megan Watterson is so brilliant, such an expander for me. Thank you, Megan Watterson. Oh my goddess. She writes about the energy of Lalita being like when you and your lover or you and your partner, you and a friend are in a fight, and it's like the moment when someone mispronounces the word and everyone cracks up. It's letting go of taking it all so seriously, which I think is really hard at a time on planet Earth when there's like a lot of really serious shit going down. And so to practice play and pleasure and embody that frequency, not as a bypass, but actually as an anchoring, because it's almost like I'm being shown like the collective consciousness, like being so thirsty for joy, that you can simultaneously be fucking outraged in your sacred rage and embody a frequency of joy and be in both of those parts of your expression. And when you lean towards the joy and you lean towards the play and you create conscious space to activate that, regardless of what's happening externally, it's actually going to resource you and hydrate you so that when you meet someone who's in deep pain, or you meet yourself in a moment of deep pain, you've filled up this reserve of play and pleasure and joy, that you're training your mind, body, and nervous system to orient itself towards, when all of the programming and everything we're being inundated with consistently is violence, 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 violence. And the violence is happening. So are we going to spend all of our time meditating on the violence, or are we going to look at where, how do I want to say this? I'm actually going to pull this card. I'm being directed to pull this card for this one. So fire takes fuel, right? And there's sort of like a directive. Like in order to build a fire, you got to put the wood there. There needs to be this fuel that sparks the fire. And so there's a direction of our consciousness. There's a direction of our energy. And if there is a lot of violence happening, are we going to give the currency of our consciousness to perpetuating and recreating more violence? Or are we going to give the currency of our consciousness to transmuting wherever we are upholding a thread of violence within us as representative of what we want to see on planet Earth? And in relationship to our play, this is like when you're embodying your passion and you're showing up in your light, like you don't even know how many people you're activating. Like there's a few people here watching live right now, but on the replay, there's people who tune in, and I get emails and messages all the time from folks I've never met, didn't even know they were following, didn't even know they were tuning into the drip. So you never know how your passion, how your play is going to inspire the collective. And if you're watching this right now, it's because you are an artist. It's because you are a creatrix. It's because you are a high priestess. It's because you are a light worker. It's because you are an earth angel. It's because you are ancient as fuck. Most people don't even understand what the fuck I'm saying because I just talk in straight prose. So we're communicating on a whole other level here, because when you live in the realm of artistry and passion and creatrixhood and transmutation, there's a very specific energy signature that you embody, and you're going to take on and feel the collective consciousness at that next level, because that's part of your purpose. That's part of the code of your being. That's part of your function. So especially if you're energetically sensitive, we need to be mindful of where we're putting the currency of our consciousness. How are we? I heard, who said this? Sonia Renee Taylor said, I am not interested in being in relationship with anyone who is practicing a future timeline of catastrophe. And if everyone is fucking freaking out, scared, and catastrophizing, and then talk about recreating that in the I like literally threw the Nocturnes card. Where is it? Talk about daydreaming and recreating things, right? Like, if you're fucking powerful and psychic and spiritual, like there's even more of a responsibility to look at what you're practicing. day to day, moment to moment. We talk a lot about self-talk on the devotional drip. And how are you teaching yourself? How are you teaching your consciousness? As your higher self, you are the parent of your consciousness. You are the inner mother and the inner father coming together to parent the parts of your consciousness that are healing. And so from that perspective, what are you creating? And let's not act like art just happens on a canvas or in a photograph or in a dance performance or in a gallery. I believe that our self-care is an art practice. I believe that getting dressed every morning is an art practice. I believe that cooking food and being in relationship and pretty much anything we do on the planet is art. It is creation. So what are we creating? Where are we allowing our minds to wander in those idle moments? And when our minds start to wander to an energy of destruction, the call of these cards is to come back to a consciousness of creation. And to hold that frequency so fiercely that it shakes you to the root chakra and Shakti rises to your crown. And it is radical. It is radical to simultaneously hold. There's a whole lot of violence on this planet, and this is fucked up, and I am angry about it. Do a dance about it, play about it. I like to quite literally shake my hair out, stick my tongue out, and scream into a pillow and punch it. That's also what we do on the Devotional Dance Coven. If you want to join us next Monday, we are in fire next Monday, which is so perfect. We are transmuting shame, we're activating self-permission, and we're realigning our self-concept and identity to match the frequency of our higher selves. Casual. Yes, I did take my shirt off. So in this energy, it's a call to rise. It's a call to rise. No matter what is happening externally, we stand fiercely and we rise. And like the fire, we dance upwards, we dance upwards, we dance upwards. No matter how much there's a consciousness trying to drag us downwards, we shine up. I want to speak to, again, this ascension card. And the up is actually in, right? Ascension is actually a journey deeper into our own inner labyrinth, into the parts of our own consciousness that is our task load, our holy homework to transmute right here, right now. And can realigning our subconscious mind to the frequency of creation be the art practice? Can realigning our subconscious mind to the frequency of prosperity be the new meditation? I see the Rich Witch Des Davis here, who offers a code so potently in her work. Can we allow ourselves to be positioned by source and then position ourselves in alignment with that to prosper? Are we in alignment with prosperity and creating more? This is giving me cooking food and the way that the introduction of fire into humanity and into being able to cook our food totally changed our bodies, and the way that we were able to interact and continue to build and create new societies and new worlds. The fire is here to say, y'all, earth angels, what do we want to create? What do we want to create right now at a time of mass destruction? If there's an energy of mass destruction, there must also be a primordial energy of mass creation. Which one do you want to work with? Also, let's not pretend the energy of the goddess and the divine mother isn't also an energy of destruction. What if there are things being deconstructed on planet Earth right now that are actually part of the birth? What if the death and the birth are happening simultaneously? What if ascension is death and birth? What if art is death and birth? As an artist, I mean, that's the earliest identity I have. I would shut myself in the sunroom in my house, and I would just quite literally draw 4 hours. I didn't want to talk to anyone unless I was going outside to collect berries and sticks to put in a pot in my kitchen, sprinkle some salt and pepper, and make a soup. Some stones too. That was my version of stone soup. And there's something so powerful about that energy of creating a container to be in touch with our own multidimensionality and to lean into this ascension process right now as simultaneously a death and a birth process, as simultaneously the dark goddess and the divine mother coming together as one within us, through us, as us, in order to create a paradigm shift. It can't actually happen without death. But in our death phobic culture, and I don't mean the death of human beings, let me just please make that clear. I'm talking about the death of systems and structures and paradigms as they have been. I'm talking about the death of the ivory tower. I'm talking about the death of the hierarchy. I'm talking about the death of this linear hierarchical way of relating flipping on its side and becoming the spiral again. And I have felt this so deeply, even in my own practice as a practitioner and coach. I've been doing this for many years now, and I have felt this huge shift into a spiralic way of relating. The Devotional Dance Coven is such a huge example of that. Like, every single member of this group is a high priestess in their own right, and they have been walking their path for a minute. And what is it to now come together as high-level leaders and weave something and create something new together? This is pointing me to the way that, like, our artistry also can't happen in a vacuum. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, got my Master of Fine Arts in photography, and then I went to Duke and I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in photography. Then I went to Duke and I got my Master of Fine Arts in experimental and documentary arts. What supported me through however many years of schooling that was, 6, is critique, was the group of artists that would come together every week, and we would review each other's work, and we would look at it together, and we would be in conversation around what we were each individually creating as a representative of the whole, as a representative of the cohort of the class. And so I want to say, like, artists have isolated themselves for centuries because artists have also been mystics, and there's like a whole deep relationship to that, and we haven't been safe to come out and be out fully in our magic. And a part of coming out in that and shining out in that at this time on the planet, at the beginning of a golden age cycle, which is going to take at least 100 years to birth, so welcome, cleanup crew, is that we do this together. That we remember that we can swap notes, exchange notes, because the raccoon card quite literally points to an artist in hiding. It points to hiding behind a stage name, hiding behind almost like a performance of yourself versus like who it is that you actually are. And when I was connecting to this card yesterday, I felt like almost this like collective performance drop. Like, I think this is happening for all of us right now. I think that, like, any shred of and we're all going to be in different places and spaces with this, but any way that the ego has been performing the self is now dropping, because we're coming in tune with the frequency of the heart, and now we're starting to emanate our truth from within us, right? Again, ascension happening in the body, not outside of the body. How convenient that all of the religious dogmatic programming says you have to leave your body behind. You have to leave your body outside of the conversation. I see Magdalene Media here, who is an incredible expander for activating your sensuality, your sexuality, your Magdalene codes, your Isis codes. If you do not follow Magdalene Media or Des Davis, they're both here in the comments on Instagram, go find them. We need each other. We are all meant to show up and shine our own unique codes and create this together. I'm starting to see, like someone asked earlier, what I see in the dream realm. Thank you, Paula, so much for that question. I quite literally, when I dream, and it doesn't happen every night, but it happens often enough that I'm like, yeah. And like, swapping notes with other sisters as well. Like, there is this mystery school that we go to, I believe. And we do our work and we get our codes. And I think that we're leading in other realms and other ways. And then we're bringing that back to the earth. Like, there is some interdimensional, intergalactic play here. And if you're listening, I know you probably feel at least a texture of that. So coming back to our raccoon card, as we're like bringing our subconscious into the light of our consciousness, as we're integrating the subconscious into the light of our consciousness, which is what shadow work is. Shadow work, I think, has been, it's like, I used to feel like dumb that I didn't know what shadow work was, or I didn't get it. So let me break it down for you real basic here. If you've been like, yeah, I kind of know what shadow work is, but it's never quite somatically made sense. Let's use the raccoon to help us here. So the interpretation and the wisdom I want to offer today, and again, I am not an authority. I don't believe in authority, period. Please be in your own higher self authority around this. Take what resonates, leave the rest. But what I know from my Jungian studies, what I know from my dream studies, what I know from my somatic studies and my brain studies and my mind, body, nervous system studies is when we're working with integrating our shadow or working with our shadow, it's our subconscious mind that we're working with. We're working with integrating the parts of ourselves that we have been programmed to shove so deeply down in shame. Shame is a program, remember, not a natural human emotion. It's the parts of us that we have been programmed to shove so deeply down in shame, that they hide in the dark cavernous corners of our subconscious mind. And to do your shadow work is to go to the underworld of your psyche, like Inanna, great goddess to meditate on for this, or Lilith. Inanna goes into the underworld to retrieve her twin sister self, her shadow self, the parts of herself that have been demonized, told that they were wrong, too dirty, too slutty, to whatever you were told was too much or not enough. It's retrieving those parts, reintegrating, loving the fuck out of those parts, licking them head to toe, and allowing them to come forward and shine into your expression. Shadow work is reclaiming any parts of ourselves from the inside out that we have historically denied access to expression because of something that we learned either in our childhood or something that we're carrying epigenetically in our lineage. Like, it is very important for me to show up in this expression based on the feminine lineage that I come from, cloaked in shame around sexuality and pleasure. This is part of my practice. This is part of my play. This is who I actually am. Who I actually am is also putting the sparkly shirt back on because it's just cute. And I want to. So when we're working with the raccoon, it's like, where have you been performing who you are versus showing up as who you actually are based on something you were told at some point around how that part isn't worthy of expression, or it's not good enough, or it's too messy, or it's too whatever. And I implore you to investigate who told you that, when they told you that, why that was said, what part in their consciousness that came from. Activate some compassion around that so you can heal it within yourself, self-validate, reintegrate that part of yourself, and shine it forward. That's the invitation of the raccoon. Taking off the mask and dropping the art, dropping the stage name, dropping the performance of who you are, and shining as who you actually are. And it's like, it's that part of you that you're not sure is going to be accepted. And it's going to activate fear because at the root chakra level, we want to belong, right? So when we're looking at shadow work and when we're doing our shadow work and when we're reintegrating parts of our consciousness, there can be a primal fear of like, I am going to be cast out of the village and the tribe if I share this part of me because culturally here are the values. And so I'm going to have to repress this part of me in order to be accepted, because accepting and belonging is part of our survival, right? I'm here to say that you are welcome here in the Blood, Bone, and Honey space anytime. And please let your freakiest, kinkiest, wildest, most uncontained version of yourself unleash here, because we need to have a space to practice that. So the raccoon is like, let it be play. Let shining and sharing the parts of you be play, and don't share those parts of you in spaces where historically they haven't been accepted. Start in radical spaces like the Devotional Dance Coven, or another space where you know that the code and the invitation and the whole vibe is to unleash the parts of yourself that have been shoved down into the darkness of your subconscious mind. The raccoon also points to not taking things so seriously. It's like, start a new project. If you've been hammering away at the same shit and it's just not working, put it to the side and come back to it. If there's a way that you've been operating in relationship to your art, to your leadership, to your creative practice that feels stale, raccoon says permission to shift. Permission to change your mind at any time. Also, in this moment, I'm looking at this raccoon and I'm seeing the way that some of this masking that we do, and I know this as a neurodivergent and immunocompromised person, some of this masking is because there have been projections placed on you. And so if the mirror you've been looking into is dirty and dingy, and the mirror being whoever it is that you've been interacting with, and they're reflecting back to you, how do I want to say this actually? So everyone is a sacred mirror, right? And we're all reflecting back to each other, and everyone is a teacher on the path, no matter how brutal those teachers are. I've had some pretty brutal teachers in the form of some relationships in the last few years. If you are shining and emanating from your brightest light, it just makes sense that if you're coming in contact with someone who hasn't accepted that light within themselves, they're going to match that light with their own darkness and shine it back on you. So I think it's interesting that there's like light and dark spaces like on this raccoon's face, and it sort of points to like the parts of you that are shining forward and then the parts of you that are still hiding. And this moment, this ascension card, this time on planet Earth, all these Aries placements, like this is a moment to shine and share forward, but also we've got some retrograde energy bringing us back, which is so good because it shows us where the unfinished business is. Where are we still hanging ourselves out to dry? Where are we still holding ourselves to certain external conditions before we can actually be in the position of leadership that we want, make the kind of art that we want, make the kind of money that we want, build the kind of family and community that we want? No more conditions need to be met. That is the ultimate message of this devotional drip. And the artist, the ultimate artist, knows that everything is paint on the palette to be used. That life is the canvas. That even the darkest projections are meant to be transmuted and alchemized into the brightest light. I had something happen to me at the start of 2020 where I think I've talked about this on the devotional drip before, but it just feels pertinent today, especially for leaders and light workers watching at this time who've also had this experience, to just get into that coven village energy around like, we're not alone, we're not crazy, we're all experiencing similar textures of awakening, of integration, of healing. That to me feels so grounding and good. Let me know in the comments how that feels for you. So I had something happen where I was shining and showing up in my leadership in a bigger way. And I feel like this accompanies when we start sharing our passion, right? We start showing up more in our magic. Like it's almost like this, it's like being in the mystery school of life and the different like exams and tests that we have to pass in order to like get to the next level, but not in a linear way. I'm talking like in a labyrinth way. So we're in the spiral and maybe we're like on the path and we meet this block in the form of a mirror, in the form of a person that rather than reflecting our light back to us, they reflect our own darkness back to us. And what happened to me is it was a dear friend, reflected back to me parts of my own inner critic and inner punisher that I have been holding on to. I feel like it's older than me, if that makes sense. Like it felt like ancient within my lineage. It felt ancient within my feminine lineage. And I just recently found out, actually, I think I said this on the last drip too, that my grandma just told me that you can't really see it because of the light in here, but you can kind of see it. I have this like red mark right here. It gets red when I sweat and when the light isn't so bright. And my mom, my grandma, my great grandma, and as far back as we know, all share this same birthmark. My grandma recently, after I'm almost 30, in 30 years, we've been talking about astrology, magic, herbalism since I hit the planet. She has never shared this with me. She was like, oh yeah, like that, our birthmark that we all have, we all have the same birthmark on our third eye, has been called the flame. For as long as, the women in our lineage can remember. And so when I was in my own labyrinth and I had this sister reflect back to me my own inner critic, it was in response to my light shining forward and threatening something within her consciousness, and it caused a collision, but she was representing something from my own consciousness where there was this internal collision happening for me. So what a teacher to externalize the voice of my own inner critic. Show me I have no right to do this work, and I'm another spiritual new age white woman, blah, 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 blah. This was another white woman also saying this to me. White women, can we just stop this shit and actually like do our own work and stop pointing our fingers at each other so we can heal ourselves and the planet? Like that's the invitation for white women on this planet right now. We got to stop pointing our fingers at each other. We got to stop comparing ourselves to each other. We got to stop getting on social media, looking at what someone else is doing and being like, I could do that better. And we need to heal that shit, because that is loud and real and alive. But going back to this raccoon card and this energy of having like the dark mirror reflect back to us, that conversation, I shrunk so deep and so down. And I had just started sharing like a new framework that I had channeled. And there was like all of this stuff happening in my business. I was shining as an artist and a leader in a new way. And then boom, this projection hits me in the face. And I could have, and I did, and I did feel like a victim of that, and I think there's still parts of me that are working that out, or I probably wouldn't be speaking about it right now. I mean, that's just the truth. And also, what that provided for me was an opportunity to look at where where and how like my self-concept was so shaky that I would take that on and then allow that to silence myself, silence my voice, silence my work. And then it took me time to rise and show back up again. But because it took me to the underworld of my own psyche, I actually got to meet the parts of myself, my twin sister shadow self. And I feel like this is a journey that we go on over and over again. It's not like we go to the underworld, we do our shadow work, and then we're done. It's spiralic, it's cyclical. It'll keep happening as long as we're alive, because that's the great get to. The great get to is that we get to love and integrate parts of ourselves that haven't seen the light of consciousness perhaps in centuries. So this brilliant teacher, friend of mine on the path, who I'm going to refer to as that for my own mind, body, and nervous system, initiated me into claiming a unshakable self-concept. What would an unshakable self-concept look like on you? An unshakable self-concept around your artistry, an unshakable self-concept around your leadership, an unshakable self-concept around like, no, I am here to shine and share my light, and here's what the fuck I'm going to talk about. And if you don't resonate, blessed be. I said this on the last trip. When Mary Magdalene and Jesus went to a town and people didn't resonate with what they were saying, they went to the next one. This is not a game of convincing, proving, showing. Like, if we can let go of other people needing to get what we're doing, you're going to let yourself make the kind of art that you actually want to make. Nobody needs to get it but you. And in fact, nobody might get it but you for a while. And so if we're going to activate our inner artist and creatrix, we need to be able to stand in an unshakable knowing and an unshakable connection to, I am here on planet Earth to do this work. And regardless how anyone feels about it or projects onto me about it, I am going to march forward in my sobriety from codependency, and I'm going to keep sharing my magic, regardless, unconditionally. That feels like a big texture of this reading. Artists aren't just sometimes artists. Creatrixes aren't just sometimes creatrixes. Goddesses aren't just sometimes goddesses. No matter what state we're in, blood on our face, collapsed in the shadow realm, in shaking in fear, shaking in shame, coated in guilt, we're still goddesses. We're still artists. We're still creatrixes. And in fact, in those moments, the Divine Mother loves us the most because, she gets to come and hold and love her child and invite them back into their power. So if you are feeling like you're in any sort of devolved state in the underworld right now, I feel like I'm in another round of the underworld. Know that it is in that realm that you are connected to the brightest light. It is in the depths of the darkness that the brightest light shines, and that will always be the truest thing in this multiverse, in my opinion. And if we can meet all this with a little more play, then the stuff that cuts us to our cores also is part of our coursework. And we're like, you know what? I'm going to take this dark shit and I'm going to alchemize it into something powerful, and I'm going to make some art about it. And I'm going to let this feed my conviction, and I'm going to let this sacred rage burn me into aliveness. Like, we don't need to be scared of the fire anymore. The fire teaches us how to dance. The fire teaches us how to cook. The fire teaches us how to transmute. It teaches us how to warm. It teaches us how to gather around it. It is a central point. It is a focal point. It teaches us how to focus. Tapas, which is a Sanskrit invitation into devotion and focus, is fiercely connected to fire. And if you want to create something powerful on this planet, if you want to reveal that inner artist and that inner creatrix, you have to focus on the light. It's not that we ignore the dark and bypass and pretend that it's not there. We know that it's there. So because we know that it's there, we focus on the light because we're bringing those parts of us with us forward. Even in a retro, there's no going back. There's only a breathing forward, a momentum forward. And forward can also look like inward, and sometimes there's a devolve before the evolve, and that's all of what we talked about in episode 20, which is the Creatrix Codes of Metamorphosis, which would be an incredible tandem episode to be with in relationship to this one. Des says, "Ooh, girl, you better channel." So let's be in a little goddess moment together. I can't play music because they'll kick me off YouTube, but I want to let's just do a couple. Oh shit. Sorry. Hold on. I just pulled up Google Chrome. Let's just do a couple hip circles together. Let me move this back. Just to like activate this a little bit. Yeah. Like if we're going to talk about the creatrix, if we're going to talk about our inner artistry, like we can't talk about the body and not bring the body into the conversation. So if you want to just join me for a couple big old hip circles, we have a pregnant person in the devotional dance coven, and at the end of every class, towards the end of our somatic movement activation, I invite everyone to introduce a move for the group. And this gorgeous being with her big belly, maybe she's watching this replay. Hello, love. She just gave us like we had been doing hip circles, but her belly was like I felt like it was teaching all of our pelvises like how to take up more space and how to reach to like corners and parts of our hips and pelvises that only a pregnant person could invite us into with that big wisdom belly. So let's just be in our big wisdom bellies and just create a little space in our hips. Maybe you're at your sink doing your dishes and you want to join us with just a little shake. This is the disarming that's necessary, right? Like we got to get out of our heads. We got to stop taking it so seriously because that distracts us from the seriousness of our divine purpose. If we're too in the ego, if we're too in the mind, if we're too attached to the way it all needs to look or should look, we can't actually hear and listen to the messages of our higher self. So best way to disarm any energy that ain't yours, that you don't want to bring forward, shake it out a little bit. Shaking also is a somatic practice that completes nervous system cycles. You can shake a little bit around your auric field. You can put your hands on your knees and give yourself a nice little, I've actually really been liking both of my feet on the ground and kind of going up and down like this. That's felt really good recently and almost just like draining all the stuff out of my sacrum. And when I've been doing this, I've been imagining like black tar leaving the bottom of my spine and just going into the ground. And as I inhale, breathing back up water, breathing back up earth, breathing back up nutrients, breathing back up the crystalline white light diamond core of the earth, and then letting that move up and out the crown. Like this is what we got to do as artists and creatrixes, right? We have to remember that there's so much happening on an alchemical realm that we can't quite connect to unless we allow our vision to connect, unless we allow our breath to connect, unless we bring our body into the conversation and allow that to connect. So just a little shaking. I also did link the monthly practice playlist in the comments of this video. A great follow-up to this would be clicking on that practice playlist, going to it, and then somatic movement prompt. What wants to come through in this moment? What parts of my subconscious mind and true self are ready to reveal themselves to me through my movement? And then let yourself be the channel and let your movement be the teacher. Let the movement show you what's true for you. Like, for example, if I was to ask myself that question, even with no music, like what part of my subconscious mind and my true self is asking to shine forward as an expression of my inner artist and creatrix? Maybe you want to do it with me right now. Here's how it would look for me. I think I would start with a hand on the belly and hand on the heart to ground. My knees want to soften. And here's my story today. Here's what it sounds like. Ha 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 ha. You can join me if you want, following your breath and letting your breath lead your movement. And that's how my truth wanted to come through today. Felt very air. I felt very connected to Gemini. And I feel like that is an invitation to just remind us that there is a lot happening in the mind realm right now. Gemini is intelligence. Gemini is the mind. My husband is a Gemini, fucking brilliant man, has taught me so much. And as someone who was told that they were not smart enough and frankly dumb from a young age because of my neurodivergency that was undiagnosed and just all of the trauma stuff, his Gemini wisdom has been such an invitation for me into like reclaiming my intelligence, into making love to my mind and letting this gorgeous mind be in service and make love to my heart and my womb. If you've never looked at the vagus connection between our guts and our brains, we have a gut brain, we have a heart brain, and we have a brain brain. And there is a connection all the way through us. So in this Gemini realm, really pay attention to how you're taking care of your gut. Pay attention to how much space and time you're allowing yourself to digest and process. If we're not allowing ourselves to digest and process food or emotions, it's going to show up in the brain as brain fog, as overwhelm, as anxiety. And then if we're not plugging into that heart frequency, that's the moment that we start to feel disconnected and floating out in space, which is why I feel like Lalita's coming forward with this playfulness invitation. Like that was just so playful for me. I almost fell over like 4 times. I've laid on the couch. Magdalene Media says, thank you for sharing your magic, sister. Me, Gemini too. Oh, I love that. I know you're a Gemini now. That makes so much sense to me. So yeah, like embracing this season. We got a lot of fire placements. We got a lot of Gemini. That to me is like spiral it back down into the emotional digestion, and then watch the way that creating space for emotional digestion, which happens through our breath, creates spaciousness in the mind. Watch how connecting to the frequency of your heart and having a heart-to-heart with someone clears your mind space. You can think different things. So you can activate your capacity to be creative with your life. Again, art isn't just something we do on a piece of paper. Art is our practice. Art is relationship. Art is life. Art is the way we cook our food. Art is the way we tend to our homes. So how can we activate this inner creatrix and artist to shine and share to every altar of our lives? And in the process, embrace that destruction is going to be part of it. So if there's a boundary you need to set, if there's a container you need to create for yourself so that you can have clarity of mind, heart, and belly, womb, go out and do it. Set that boundary, create that container. Because it's like, I'm seeing like almost like a playpen or something, like creating this container for yourself where you can be in your undiluted wild expression and just come alive in your eunice. Again, that is quite literally what we're doing in the Devotional Dance Coven. It's the last week to join us. I'm going to close the cart for this inaugural round on Monday. And again, I said this on Instagram. I was like weeping getting off our call on Monday because everyone in this group is a fucking high priestess and so ancient. And the way that there's space for us to like exchange codes and share our wisdom and remember that we're not alone and create art together. Like that to me feels like why we're on planet Earth, right? We're here to be in an energy of creation and a sovereign energy of destruction of that which doesn't serve us anymore, that which is crumbling now, that which is gone. Okay, playtime review. I've got 5 minutes before my mom comes to get me to go to a dance class. Let's just buzz through them again. So, Nocturnus, inviting play into your shadow work. Ascension, awakening happens in your body. Delight in every emotion, even pain. There is even a sweet, sweet pleasure on the other side of that, that deep cry that you cry on behalf of what's unfolding. Like, even in this moment of connecting to that sadness, I'm like, there's something new happening. And so even in that sadness, can we connect to that? Can we connect to that? Can we allow ourselves the space and the grace to take pleasure in our pain and our sadness, and like the ancientness of the indigenous villages and communities, like grieve and weep together on behalf of what has been, on behalf of what's dying, and on behalf of what we're ready to build. Like, this is not about bypassing. This is about integration. This is about choosing something new. So it happens in the body. Allowing yourself to weep, to grieve is a practice. It's a practice. If you cut yourself off from your pain, you won't be able to access your pleasure. The breakthrough is on the other side of the sacred tantrum you let yourself have. Another incredible episode that I actually might go revisit, because like my human self can't take credit for this. This is my channel. This is my higher self. This is my ancestors. Like these are the ascended masters that I work with moving through me. And that transmission about the inner mother, I totally forget what episode it was, but it's so good for this moment. And again, I'm just going to shout Magdalene Media's work, because every day her work reminds me that like it's okay to be this multidimensional and this powerful and this sensual and this free. Okay. I don't think I've ever cried on the devotional drip. That's a new expression of my creatrix. Paula says, yes, goddess. I was going to ask earlier about cultivating courage to show up when we're exposing ourselves to be criticized or labeled as arrogant, delusional by people who are not yet in their power. Yeah, it's like a daily experience for me. And eventually you just learn to tune it out, because it's like, I said this yesterday and I forgot to say this today, like we have a right to draw a sacred circle of protection around ourselves at any time, 111 on our time right now, and say like, this is not mine. And this is the prayer I like that I learned from my Reiki master in my early 20s when she did a quite literal exorcism on my solar plexus. You can join me in this if you want to. Let's just set the sacred circle. We went deep today. So if you want to join me with your eyes closed, you can put your hands in prayer, hands on your heart, hands on your womb, hands on any part of your body that feels good. You can sway a little bit while I speak this. At this time, I call on the higher selves, the guides, guardians, ancestors, and teachers of all of the beings present here in the space on the live and on the replay. I ask that any energy that is not here to serve their highest good be transmuted and alchemized from their sacred circle of protection at this time. You can put your hands out in front of you and draw a circle. This is a high holy space of energetic frequency, and we operate in our sovereignty inside of that. Nothing is allowed inside of our sacred circle of protection except us. No more are energies, frequencies, beings allowed inside of our energy that is not us. We have a right to feel ourselves, all of ourselves, our whole multidimensional selves. And it is not our responsibility to carry the projection of others. Command your space. You can visualize a golden light of protection or a violet ray light of protection surrounding you 12 feet in all directions. You can expand that light out as far as you want, inhaling into that light. Exhaling and sending any energy that is not yours out through the bottom of your spine, down into the mommy. Give it to her, send it to her. It's the energetic compost. She will eat that up, transmute it, and then breathing back up through the bottom of your feet, your own energy, your own essence, and feel yourself. This is sovereignty. It doesn't mean to be separate. It means that we know that we have a direct connection with our source, our higher selves, and that we can relate to each other, sovereign being to sovereign being, not codependently projecting onto each other our pain that's undigested. So that's the vibe of this drip. Last few, just to point to them before we get off. Lalita, play, let it be play. You can now go get off this drip, put on a song, dance in your sacred circle of protection, have a little celebration around it, because that was a serious moment. But then we balance that out with the play, right? Because it's like, I'm free, I'm sovereign, I have a direct connection to my higher self in any and all moments, and nobody can take that away from me, not even the darkest projection shining onto me that perhaps has me hiding in darkness for a minute, or maybe 20 years, or maybe 30 years, but we always have the right to ascend. And remember, keep that flame lit, keep that passion alive. Do something every day that makes you feel alive. That's why dancing is part of my practice. That's why, as part of the Devotional Dance Coven, I'm giving everyone a daily somatic movement and journal prompt list corresponding to the weekly activation that we're in, because it is radical and revolutionary to move your body for one song in joy and pleasure and truth, and to journal for one song in joy and pleasure and truth. Life is happening, things are changing. So to create that 10 to 20 minutes for yourself to just sit down, be with yourself, drink your own light, it will save you hours of time of ruminating, of self-judgment, of shaming, of denying. All of that stuff takes up energy and resources. As someone who is healing from codependency, it takes up resources, both fiscally and energetically. So the more that we can practice that frequency of sovereignty daily, the more we can activate it in those moments that make us shake in our boots. So do the thing that lights your pleasure up daily. Give the currency of your consciousness to what you want to create. Grieve what's getting destructed, and then destruct in your life what you're ready to destruct. Let it get burned up, and then let the passion shine through. What are you ready to say no to so that you can say yes to something else? No is an energetic clearing. No is a word that women and feminine beings on the planet haven't had access to, and we're relearning that we have the right to use that now. Lalita, don't take it so seriously. Watch some comedy. Let yourself laugh. Go hang out with that friend that makes you laugh so hard you almost pee your pants. Like, that is the energy of the Red Goddess. It's like, go laugh. Go to a comedy show. Go do the thing that lights up your spirit and feels like play. Watch the movie that makes you simultaneously weep and laugh your ass off, and do it every day. And know that when you anchor play, look at this goddess. Know that when you anchor the frequency of play and pleasure on the planet, we also have the blue butterfly here, which is a sacred symbol of metamorphosis and transformation. You are transmuting stuff within your own subconscious mind, and you're also transmuting on behalf of the collective. Yeah. Play is a spiritual practice. I think that was all of them. Yeah. And then raccoon, make new work, drop the mask. We're not performing ourselves anymore. I mean, y'all just saw me weep my eyes out on this drip. Like, this is who I am. If you met me in person, I would be the same person. This is who I am. And it's a practice to practice that and embody that. And it can be playful, right? It can be playful. Oh, Magdalene Media said you are the Red Goddess. I'm going to breathe that in. Thank you. All right. I feel like we're good. I feel like that was today's drip. Again, I'll just say this one more time. I don't know why this isn't focusing. I think it's just because I held up something to the camera. I'm just going to get close to you. It is the last week to sign up for the Devotional Dance Coven for this inaugural round. I have the link below to join us. The sales page still says the cart closes on Friday the 13th. I've been quite literally meaning to change that for like 2 weeks. The cart is open until Sunday. And on Monday, we're in fire. We're transmuting shame, and you will get the replay of our orientation ceremony where we did a higher self-care spellbook blessing. Hell yeah. And then the replay of activation 1, where we were in grounding, root chakra, self-belonging, earth, deeply connecting our movement to the earth, deeply connecting our journaling to the earth, deeply connecting our inquiry and our ritual that week to the earth. This week we're in water, we're in self-intimacy, we're in our womb spaces, we're in the energy of creation and manifestation, we're in the sacredness and the privacy of that. You know, like, I think people talk about the womb and the sacral chakra, Svadhisthana, as a space of expression. But my personal relationship to this space, and especially as someone who has a deep relationship to the throat chakra, Vishuddha, is that this is the sacred space of creation. Like, this space is dark. This isn't necessarily where we're shining and sharing things out into the world. This is where things are gestating and getting created. So it's the kind of expression and creation that happens between you and you. It's like getting really intimate. What do we actually want right now? I think it was actually you. Was it your birthday yesterday, my dear Magdalene Media? I think I saw you write that you wrote 300 of your desires down. I read that like as I was falling to sleep last night, and that totally activated me into some beautiful dreams, and I'm totally going to do that. She wrote down, if this was, I think it was you, 300 desires on her birthday. And like, Just think about that for a second. Writing down 300 of your desires and getting that intimate with it. Like, are you kidding me? What a reclamation. And that's a space between us and us. It is intimate. It is private. It is holy. It is sacred. It is in the womb. It is in the darkness. It is in the pelvis. It is in the water. So that's where we are this week. For Devotional Dance Coven, we're looking at self-denial as well and activating desire and reclamation around that. And then next week we'll be in fire, shame, identity, expression, solar central sun, reclaiming an empowering relationship with our ego. We got to stop demonizing the ego. It's our friend. We just got to plug that ego into the frequency of our heart, into the frequency of the fire that burns and transmutes the false selves in favor of the true self, the higher self, the authentic self, the multidimensional galactic self, that we are all here to shine and be as part of our divine purpose. And then we'll go through 4 other activations. So it's a 7-week program, and that is the tea. We also have a private Discord group that's super fun. I'm actually going to go tap into that after dance class today. And I'm giving a weekly higher self-care home ritual. This week I gave everyone this epic 7 oracle card pull to do in relationship to their journey, manifestation, the labyrinth, what they desire now, what they're ready to come alive into now. Last week, the home ritual was gridding a new altar space, and I gave a guide and instructions and invitations for that. And then next week, I'm not going to reveal it yet because even the Devotional Dance Coven babes don't know. But every week there's also a ritual because we're getting really activated in the space together. And then what I know about being in like 1,017,000 circles and programs at this point is it's really helpful to have something between the live calls and the big activation to like integrate, weave, and digest whatever comes forward in that big space together in a consistent way daily, because that's how we reprogram our subconscious mind. That's how we reprogram our nervous systems. I said this last week, the brain as clay, the nervous system like a sponge. What imprints and codes are we holding? And can we remember that we have the agency, authority, and power to reshape our brains and reshape our nervous systems? My mom's calling me. Hello? Okay, great. I'm about to hop off YouTube. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, bye. LOL. Okay, I got to go to dance class, y'all. I love you. I will see you next week. Womb, mind, heart, blowing. Yos! I love all of you. I'm so grateful. Like, what the fuck? I can't believe this is my life. May you feel this way in your artistry as well. May it feel like play. May it feel like delight and pleasure, even on the days that it feels hard and scary. Because it certainly feels like that for me consistently as I step deeper into my divine purpose. Namaste. Love y'all. Peace out. And don't forget to play. Your pleasure is a prayer that will always breathe you back to life. See you next week. Bye.